Hello, hello. It is spa time. Literally. My jacuzzi tub is filled with cold water. I already stepped in it today up to my knees, and it was very refreshing, but it was too cold. But later today, I'm gonna dive into it, but I'm not gonna show it. But I cannot go skinny dipping because the neighbors, there is some brush that has wilted away and now they can see me. And because of that, I have to use my bikini that I put on already. And it is so hot today. The sweat is running down. I put makeup on. I wanted to make some nice selfies today because a guy in the chat room complained that he doesn't see any cleavage in my photos. So I give you some cleavage now. There. So, yeah, this is nice. I'm fat and I have a nice bikini on and it is awesome. And and the subject of the video is I am not a human. Yes, I'm not a human. Okay. And my bikini pants look like this here. They come down to my knees. So the neighbors, they cannot see anything. That's a good thing. It would be really nice to have total privacy. Then I can go skinny dipping and run around nude all day long in my house and no one cares so, about that situation. So, and that'll be really awesome, particularly when it gets hot, that like to this temperature, like 100 degrees, just sweltering. You can't stand to have anything on your body. But the reason why I put this fish on is because I wanted to highlight the situation with that fish because of my outer andro nature. So an android, andro is the human, and so my outer human nature. So that's what I'm trying to highlight here. So so this is my declaration now for the whole world. I am not a human. I am a para-human. You know what para means? Para means outside. That means completely outside of that range of some certain characteristics. Okay, so, or species or whatever. I am not a human. I am not of the human species. Okay, that's what it is. I did mate and all of this. And yes, yeah, I don't want to get into that right now, but I am. The procreation type of thing does work with me, with humans. So technologically, technologically, I'm still a human in that way. And I can still procreate with a human man. I can do good, but I don't want to. Okay? Uh, it has to be a para-human for me. I don't take anything less than a para-human man. So, and a para-human man, to me, Alex Jones is a para-human man. And everyone who cares is a para-human. Everyone who cares and who does not get violent at someone else, and who doesn't hunt, and who doesn't eat meat, and I don't know, I think Alex Jones eats meat. So yeah, it would be nice if he could quit. So any human who is willing to be better is already a parahuman. Any human who does not take offense, well, they're going to chop my head off because I said something in the chat room. So everyone who is willing to listen is already a parahuman. So everyone who is kind and caring, okay, and who doesn't take offense and who doesn't become violent at someone else just because they said something wrong. Yeah. Everyone who doesn't censor someone else with greed-based things or with violence, with force. Anyone who doesn't do any of these violent things is already a parahuman, so in my view. So that's just how I view it. And I needed to get that off my chest, you know, I really did, because I've been thinking about this all night last night, and I woke up with this and I thought I need to make a compelling video about this. And maybe I need to crank it up a little bit, you know, I need to crank my video up just a notch. So, and the video title and maybe the photo, crank it up a notch. So I'm always a little bit on the humble side, a little bit too humble, a little bit too shy, a little bit too squeamish about these things, and like, oh, then I am, you know, if I step it up, you know, then if I meet people where they are, then what does it make me? A person like them, a human. Ah, no, that's not good. I can't be human. I have to be a superhuman, according to my dad. Nothing less than a superhuman. But I'm not a superhuman. I'm not. Okay, sorry. I'm not a Leonardo da Vinci. I am not a hardworking person. I'm lazy. I want everything made right up front. I don't want to work for it, you know. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I have been drinking, drinking and drinking in the past, not anymore. People accuse me of being drunk in my videos. That's because I'm drunk on art. No more alcohol in my blood. That is kind of nice. I also didn't put a child into the world. That's kind of nice. So there's a couple of things that I can be very grateful for and feel accomplished for. So, you know, that I stood. In Germany, I didn't have to stand against the grain of society because we all had abortions. So that was the normal thing for us to do. It's like, it is a wasp, you know, like this, looks like this, but it's like this size. Okay, like, let me show you what this is. This is how, this is what it was. I aborted this thing. A wasp embryo, yes, and it didn't look like a human at all. It looked like a maggot. That's what it really was. They pulled a maggot out of my uterus. So, and the maggot was like, whatever. I'll come back in someone else's uterus. So that's how it works. It's not a big deal. But here in the United States, like, suddenly it's this enormous fuss and deal, and it's like this drama. Oh my gosh, a drama. And then they make these, I talked about this before, the fundamentalists made these fake videos where someone molded a little clay figure of a person, like almost like a stick figure, kind of, yeah, but with 5 fingers, but kind of stick figure like, out of some kind of child's clay, like Play-Doh and stuff, but real small. And and then they poured some red paint over it and mixed that all up and poured some, I don't know, some soapy suds onto it too. And then they made it look like this was sort of a photo taken through an electron microscope. And then they go, see, we told you it's already a human. And no, it is not a human. It doesn't look like this with 5 fingers and all. That comes much later. Okay. And at that point, I would not do it anymore. I just my personal, how, if it was the size of a guinea pig, I would not remove this anymore. No. Then I know it really wants to live, and it wants to grow, and I'm gonna get shit from some people now for this, because they'll go, how do you know they want to grow? They don't even know that they want to grow. They're just growing. Yes, of course. But I don't know, I just personally could not abort it then anymore, like after 3 months or something. I think that's around the threshold for me, the ethical threshold for me personally. But ethically, in a philosophical sense, in a legality type of sense, I am absolutely 100% pro-abortion. And even if it is a late-term abortion, if that's what the woman wants to do, she should have the right to do. And I take it a step further. I have to agree with Dr. Peter Singer on some of the things he said that are highly controversial. And I'm going to get a lot of shit from people probably, unless the YouTube bot filters these people out, which is pleasant, because why should I deal with this? But, I have to get into this because I have to get into the details more so that people understand what this is all about. Let me explain something. I have to roll back. So there's a hot springs down near Paso Robles, California. And the owner of that hot spring, this is very, very heartbreaking story. So if anyone doesn't like to hear a real heartbreaking story, turn it off, because it's painful. It is a painful horror story. I just hope that that kid didn't suffer, So that is my main concern, is this, I'm concerned about the stuff, the animals and children and human suffering, beings suffering. That's my concern. I don't want suffering in the world. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense also to the religious people. I don't know. Because sometimes I get this impression that they put life even on cost of suffering and agony and all of this, like life on all cost. That's kind of like that's what I observe also locally here. We try to help animals. We try to establish an animal helping group here with other people together. There was absolutely no way we could find a common denominator even. Because we were coming from such vastly different worldviews. And that's why I think it is so incredibly important. The people who come from a religious worldview, they just simply don't have the education. And I think that's what the real problem is about it. They don't have the education. They don't have the foundation to understand any of these things, because they have missed out on real education. And it's not their fault. It is really the fault of the corporate agenda, who's trying to keep people uninformed. That's what it really is about. So it's like, we couldn't agree on anything. They could not even agree on euthanasia, So it's incredible, and euthanasia is so utterly important. So utterly important. I cannot stress this enough, really. It is so utterly important. It's incredibly important. We want to avoid suffering. My goodness. suffering in the world. It has to end, okay? There's too much suffering going on. So, but people, they'll accept suffering. They'll say, "Oh, he's so lucky he survived. Well, he's quadriplegic now, yes, and he may be suffering like hell, but hey, he survived." That's their attitude, you know. They pawn this off on animals. They pawn it off on their family members and anyone. They pawn it off onto the entire government and governmental legislation. And that's not okay with people who are progressive thinkers. Okay, that's not okay with us. That's why I don't call myself a human. I'm not like this. Okay, so when I observe humans in chat rooms or in the world or whatever, you know, see what they're doing, I see their videos, I can't call myself a human. It's absolutely out of the question. I'm a parahuman. I'm not a superhuman. Paul Watson, Captain Paul Watson, is a superhuman. Okay, he really is. He's amazing and diligently working. He dedicated his entire life to ending suffering. Okay, so for the animals, particularly focused on the ocean animals, the way they suffer, the way overfishing and active sonar and whaling and this entire horror that's going on in the ocean. There's so much suffering caused by humans, you know, and he's doing the best he can in his life, and he has already. He has his entire life. He has been saving animals. He has put his body over baby seals to protect them, to use his body as a living shield. And he almost bled to death from being chopped on by those seal clubbers. That's what they do with the baby seals in front of the baby seals' mothers, and the mothers cry. They sit there, they're totally helpless. They don't have legs, they don't have arms, they don't have hands. They can't defend themselves. They're like a person who's completely tied up like a mummy. And then they sit there, can't do anything, just observe the horror. Can you imagine if people did that to human mothers? Then everyone would be outcrying. They would call it a massacre. They would call it a genocide. But yeah, it's happening to the animals. They don't care. They want the fur coats from those newborn baby seals. That's why I cannot call myself a human. Okay, sorry. I'm a parahuman. Captain Paul Watson is a superhuman because he put his body over those baby seals. He gave his life for them. He said, if I die, okay. At least I have made a point. At least I have brought this to the public's attention. At least I have done what I could to protect this baby seal in this moment, in this instance. That's a superhuman. I understand why the regular humans, why they would be very afraid. They would be terrified. They wouldn't know what to do, even if they cared. Yeah, most of them would run because they don't want to be hurt. So that is the knee-jerk reaction in most humans. When it comes to my own baby, so I have my own baby, which is my dog. Okay, so I love my dog more than my own biological child. This is just my personal view. If you don't agree with that, that's okay with me. You know, I'm not gonna be mad at that. You know, you have the right to love your baby more than any other living being. I would be grateful for you if you did. You know, most mothers don't even do that. Okay, so, but for me, I put my dog above the human species, above my own biological child. So that's just who I am. Okay, but I'm still not a superhuman because I don't know if I could put my body over the baby seal. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it would torture me so much to see this that maybe I would. I don't know. But I haven't done any of this, so because I haven't put myself even in that situation in the first place, I avoid those kind of things. I always think, oh, I better not observe someone hurting an animal or a child, but because I don't know how I'm gonna be reacting then. So that would be a disaster for me to see something like this, because maybe I would intercept, and we're not allowed to intercept because of the law, the legal system, the illegal, immoral legal system, so created by the humans. Okay, so if you're a parahuman, you're dealing with a human-based legal system, which is not so super, which is not ethical. And for the superhumans like Paul Watson, that's a real problem. Not only do they deal with these limitations of the legal system that doesn't even allow for kindness and compassion. Quite the opposite. They cater to the corporate agenda. I don't even know where to start with this. That would cover 100 videos if I got into that. There is so much to talk about that. They made it illegal to even film, undercover filming, in different places, in all kinds of different places, whether it is laboratories, whether you test on animals, or factory farms. You're not even allowed to film undercover anymore. They have a lot to hide, and that's why. And the human-made legal system, it caters to them, caters to that corporate agenda on cost of the animals. People need to know this, okay, before they say, "Oh, this is against the law, though, and because that's against the law, that must be wrong." That's what most people are. That's the way most people reason, according to Dr. Lawrence Kohlberg. That is moral reasoning level 1 and 2, the very base levels. So that's not very moral, that reasoning. That's like, I better not do this because I'm going to be punished. That's not very ethical thinking, okay? So, and what I'm trying to raise the bar here for humanity. When I go into a chat room, I try to raise your moral reasoning level. That's what I'm trying to do. So, but I get hated for it because it always opens up cans of worms in people. It opens up all kinds of things. That entire skeleton of the entire construction work base, the entire base skeleton of their worldview, and everything comes crumbling down. It just suddenly it doesn't stand on anything anymore. It doesn't have any substance anymore once that is reasoned out. So anyway, I wanted to get back to that example that I wanted to use. Near Paso Robles in that hot springs, it's a tragic story. There was a couple. They had a disabled child, and the obviously it must have been quite difficult to live with that disabled child, and obviously they were fundamentalists, completely against abortion, against any of these things. And so she had to have that kid, even though they could determine from biopsies or whatever they have done, the doctors, from ultrasound, that the child was disabled. And she has the child anyway, because of her religious upbringing and all of this. Then they couldn't deal with the child at all. So then the child was like, I don't know, was like 5 years old or something. And they the child was put into the hot springs with some kind of swim ring around, and they gave the child some kind of substance, where the child became very drowsy. And then they took the swim ring away from the child, and they just left that area. They drove off. And the child, or something, they left and walked away. I don't recall exactly the details, but they left, and they acted like this was some kind of freak accident. The child drowned. Okay. And not only that, they saw their opportunity to sue the hot spring resort, which they did. So they sued the hot spring resort, they got a lawyer, and even won the lawsuit. These crooked, criminal murderers. Incredible. But they call themselves good Christians. Okay. I just want to put these things into perspective for you, so that you see it for the first time, from some rational perspective, from a rational, caring mindset perspective. So to really see the entire picture of it, and not just coming from this one angle at it, and this very indoctrinated, dogmatic angle. But you see what's really going on. Those people they are murderers, crooks, dishonest, and intellectually dishonest. They are liars, they are deceivers, and they are extremely cruel psychopaths. Okay, that's what they are. For a mother to do something that, for me personally, is just inconceivable. Inconceivable. It wouldn't matter how disabled the child is and how difficult my life is. Once I have this child, once you have this kid, once you have this living being, I mean, if you're mentally ill, or if you're disabled yourself, find a way to find someone to adopt the child. Give the child to a hospital even. You can put a child into a hospital, and they don't even, you just set it into the emergency room and tell the nurses, here's a baby that I found. You can just lie and say, this is a baby I found. Just bring the child to safety. That's all. If you can't take care of the child, don't hurt the child. Don't drown the child. Don't shoot an animal like this. Don't do this yourself. Bring the animal to the veterinarian. Bring the child to the hospital. That's my plea to you. I've seen horrible things happening. Someone shot a Great Dane with a shotgun, and disabled and hurt that dog in the forest, and the dog could barely walk anymore, and hikers found the dog and carried the dog to a veterinarian. Managed to do this. Real good people, real kind-hearted people, found this bleeding Great Dane. Okay? A deaf white albino. The family, their original family, they couldn't take care of him, and the guy just goes, oh, well, I'm just gonna shoot him. That's their way of dealing with it. They could have brought the dog to the veterinarian. At least they could have said, we can't deal with this dog, or we brought the dog to a dog pound even, and, give him a chance to be adopted by someone else. But a brutal, uneducated, human-centric, anti-educated person who has been told that all kinds of lies. I don't even want to repeat it, because I don't even want to say the sentence, what they have been told about animals. And then he does that. I mean, it's so brutal and barbaric. That's worse than what happened to that girl. Much worse. The way that the dog had to suffer. But thank goodness these hikers came and rescued the dog in the nick of time. And he was in the hospital and on life support, and they managed to get him back to health. Oh my goodness. and then was adopted by kind-hearted people who really loved the dog and knew how to handle the deaf dog and all of this. My goodness, unbelievable. Those stories, when I read about this, I just feel like I'm gonna pass out. I just get a total nervous breakdown when I hear this. So, and the story about the child drowning was also very heartbreaking and made me very mad when I heard that story. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what Peter Singer said, philosopher, ethics philosopher, Dr. Peter Singer, and I recommend to people to read his books. You may not agree with everything he says, but he has some very important things to say, and I'm sure I haven't read his books, but I have watched interviews with him. I watched some of his presentations, and he has some very compelling points and some compelling stories to tell and to highlight what he's trying to say, to bring us into much more clarity through the details. So that's what I'm trying to do with this story here. These Christians can't have an abortion, bring this very disabled, suffering child into the world, and then can't handle the situation, and what do? They make the child suffocate to death, which is torture. What the dog suffered was worse, but I'm just bringing this into perspective now, what's going on. So, and people do it to animals, they do it to children, and they do it to adult humans. People who are cruel are cruel. Those are psychopaths. And they live only according to, this is illegal, so I better straighten up with this because I don't want to be punished. That is their moral reasoning. That's the moral reasoning in most humans, in the vast majority of humans. So that's why I am trying to bring this message across, trying to convey this to you, to make this more understood so that you can see at the big picture and understand it better, okay? Because this has not been taught to you by religions and by creationism teachers in public schools or private schools, whatever. I've talked to the most hideous people in the local area here. That's why I can't have any friends. Yeah, I mean, barely any friends. I have one friend. She's an activist also, and was also politically active and locally. Great woman. But the other people, no, forget it. I couldn't find anyone, not even among those few environmentalists. They were doing this for other reasons other than the actual thing, nature and animals, protecting. No, they weren't. They were instead making deals with government, and so they can get their grant money and stuff like this. And the other people were just followers. Most people are followers. They want to be liked by the boss or by this leader or by the grant writer. Who's the grant writer? The grant writer does shit. The grant writer is only a grant writer to bring in funds, so that she can buy herself a new car or something like this. So that means nothing. And then people go like, they'll elevate that person onto a pedestal, because that's what most people do. I see it in chat rooms. Most people are followers. They go like, oh, that person must be smart, or that person must, or he's rich, he must be cool, or he's successful with this, he must be amazing, I better get an autograph from him. Or that's how people think, and I want you to step away from this. I want you to dissolve these things. I want you to dissolve worshiping. I made a video at the other house which I uploaded to Kenny Redwood channel, my animal lovers support group, Kenny Redwood. That's my other channel. So I have that video there in which I get more into detail on this subject. Worshiping and all of this, and the terrible things, the terrible life, the sabotage that comes out of that, out of worshiping other people. That has got to end. Take your life into your own hands and start thinking for yourselves, and stop listening to indoctrinations from other people. It doesn't matter how old these indoctrinations are. Matter of fact, it's the older they are, the worse they are, the less educated they are. That's a fact. But people they go like they're impressed or they're mesmerized, and then they completely surrender themselves to that other guru or celebrity or whatever. That has got to stop. Take responsibility for your own lives. Empower yourselves. Listen to your heart. Listen to your amygdala. Listen to your kindness. Listen to the inner child. The inner child doesn't want to hunt. The inner child doesn't want to hurt anyone, whether you're a boy, girl, man, or woman. Your body cells, I said it so many times, your body cells don't want to hurt another living being. Yeah, that's a fact. So that was my example now for, the comparison between that lady, killing her disabled, retarded, whatever child in the pool, trying to cash in on, suing that hot spring resort that has nothing to do with this. and my own life. Me, when I was 19, had 2 abortions. Then I had one at age 34, so 3 altogether. What's better? That's my question to you. What is better? The murder that they did to their child, or my abortions that were, I'll show you again. The removal of a maggot. Okay, which one is better? There's absolutely no question about it. Okay, there's no choice which one. It's already clear which one is more ethical. And I want to bring this to people's minds. I want to make this very, very crystal clear. And that's what Dr. Peter Singer is talking about and what he's highlighting. And there are cases, and that which he's talking about, first of all, you should use birth control, okay? And if that fails, you do an abortion. And if you, for some reason, couldn't do that either, and you have, let's say, a person is, or any person, but there are some women that have been, girls that have been abducted. There's one, Dugard is her name. She was made to have 2 children with that abductor. Okay? What a horrible thing, being abducted as a child, coming into teenage years while in captivity and caged, and or being raped repeatedly over and over and over and over again, then getting pregnant from him, not having the option, having no one to help, forced to give birth, and what a horrible, horrible, horrible nightmare. But her 2 sons, I guess she has, they're normal, and they're not like the father, and they're kind, and she loves them, and so turned out finally she was rescued. They were all rescued and turned out good. But what if a child like this is badly retarded, or maybe a psychopath too, like the father? That's very hard to determine often. That can surface later on in life, something like this, something that is very covertly hidden. So, but sometimes it shows itself quite early. So, and I'm not going to get into this. I'll make another video about this later on, because it's another very controversial video that I'm going to be making. But just to use Dr. Peter Singer's example and what he said, and that, you know, there are children that are born that are so badly disabled, they can't walk on their own, they are spastic, they get these convulsions, they get these seizure type of convulsions, they can't talk, they can't even think, they're like sort of like in a vegetable state, and they have to be spoon fed. I know of a couple, they had their child, that was their first daughter. I don't know, I just wish them the best. You know, they try really hard. They're working really full time. They would never hurt their child. Those are Christians too. They're very sweet people. That whole family was that. They have two normal daughters, and but the first daughter, I don't know what's her. She's a teenager, 17 or something, and she can't do anything. Anything. She is. Um, She's also developmentally completely regressed, like at this stage of, I don't know, like cannot think at all, cannot learn anything, cannot do anything, cannot talk. She understands things in terms of, you know, love, and that they mean well, and she has smiles, but that's all she can do. And the worst is she has to be fed through it. She can't even ingest food. She has to be fed through the abdomen. She has a tube stuck in there. Yeah. That's brutal. That's torture, and that's radical, and that is unethical for someone to be made to exist like this. That's just my view of it. I know the couple. I know they don't know better. They just don't. They mean well. They want to help. They say, yeah, well, this is life. You know, we need to human life, human DNA. You know, that's what they learned from their Christian religion. The human DNA, even if it's a blob like this, that's totally dysfunctional, but it's human DNA blob, so it has to be put on a pedestal. Ta-ta. And here's a sea cucumber in the tide pool. Sea cucumber or sponge looks just like that embryo, but the sea cucumber is going to be cut up and fed to the fishermen or whatever. So, you know, I want to put this into perspective here. This is a little bit of a cartoonish metaphor or example that I use now, but we have examples like this in masses all the time. You know, kids being born without a prefrontal cortex, or with half a brain, or something like this, being in a total vegetable state. Much more disabled than, let's say, much more disabled than an insect, much more disabled than a spider is. You know? So I just want to put things into perspective. I hope this brings it across. Just because it's human DNA doesn't mean it stands on a pedestal, okay? It is equal, okay? The human and the sea cucumber, like in this case, where they're both thinking the same amount of thoughts. So, but one is put on a pedestal, one is cut up in pieces. So, yeah, that's what I don't understand. Okay, they're on equal level. Okay. Um, a rabbit, okay, is on the same level as the embryo at fourth or fifth month, right? Same size then as the rabbit. You know, the embryo goes through all of these phylogenetical stages of evolution. An embryo starts out as a maggot, then becomes like this and like this, okay? And then the brain gets bigger, and then tiny little arms come out of here, and then like then it looks like, first it looks like a salamander, then it looks like a snake, then it looks like, maybe it looks a bit like a rabbit embryo, and you cannot distinguish between a rabbit embryo and a human embryo in specific stages of their development. So there's nothing like a human, and the rabbit is equally precious. Okay, just want to bring this to clarity. I hope I get this across. This is so important. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh, I try hard, you know. I constantly thinking about how do I get this information across to people. I know that some people, they will not listen no matter what I try, no matter how hard I try. No matter what I say, no, whether I'm kind or this or that, or whether I get pissed or rude, or it doesn't matter. They won't listen either way, with anything I say. And there's nothing I can do. But at least I can try a little bit, you know, I put my mind into it. I try to explain this from any kind of angle and go all the way around, yeah, in the circle, and approach it from every angle you can possibly imagine, and bring that across to the world that way. So the human is not on a pedestal. The human is not better. The human is not more precious. We're all equally precious. Okay? The rabbit is equally precious. My dog is equally precious to the humans. Okay? The